Hello, everybody, and thank you guys for joining us for another weekly 30-minute workshop. My name is Victor Verba, and I'm a systems engineer over here at Variphy, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Today, we are joined by my good and personal friend, Mr. Matt Sykes, aka Matty Ice. How's it going today, Matt?
Good, Victor. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, man. Sun is shining
That
deceptively,
it
but it's
is.
shining.
That it is.
So if you were able to join us last week, thank you guys for hanging out. Last week, Matt gave us a great demonstration on how to set up the Zoom private OAuth app and really just kind of get Verify up and running in just a matter of a few minutes with your Zoom phone. For today's webinar, we're going to expand on that a little bit more, and Matt's going to take us and walk us through how easy it is to build a few widgets and start running some reports once you're set up. We're going to go ahead and start off with a quick overview of what we do. We'll jump into a live demo, and Matt's going to again guide us through, building some dashboards and some reports. We'll pause for some quick Q&A. If you guys have any questions, you'll notice your Q&A panel off on the left-hand side. Feel free to ask away in there. And then after Q&A, we'll reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card. So please hang out and make sure and see if you've won. Quick overview of Verify. We are the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco and now Zoom collaboration, providing industry-leading customizable call manager, UCCX, Cube, and now Zoom dashboards and reporting, along with a suite of other tools like remote phone control, change management, macros, and DID management. But for today, we're going to be focusing on Zoom phone reports and dashboards. Again, if you have any questions on any other of the features, feel free to ping me over in the QA panel or feel free to reach out to your account manager. And then last but not least, before we go ahead and get started with our presentation, we do offer a managed consulting service where Verify SE is engaged with you on a one-on-one basis to provide remote consulting, unassisted reporting, dashboard building, configuration, system monitoring, and basically a white glove treatment that provides you a dedicated engineer to do all the heavy lifting in your Verify system. If you'd like any more information, again, please feel free to reach out to your account manager and see if our consulting service is right for you. With all that said, Matt, are you ready to roll?
I am ready to roll, Victor. Yes.
All right, and let's go ahead and share out your screen here.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Matt's Zoom Show and Tell. Okay, last week we performed the OAuth private app connection for Verify and a Zoom API. Today, in this lab that you're viewing at the moment right here, I'm going to go ahead to show you how to build your Zoom phone data out into dashboard widgets, as well as review things in the analytics section for it within Verify. Okay, so we're going to review a few of my Zoom dashboards and some other of the reportings that we have for the newly supported Zoom phone platform. So let's just start out right here. So this is a dashboard that I showcase pretty frequently and pretty regularly. This is a call manager built dashboard that I have in this lab environment here for call manager, similar to what we have for Cube iOS, as well as the new Zoom phone, which we're getting into in a matter of seconds here, are all going to be of the same kind of widget logic content. So we have 6 widget styles that we can build out for those styles of platforms. So this is definitely stuff that I've showcased before. So this is call manager side of the house where we're able to read and interpret, department information, end user information, device pool information, device information, a lot of that good fun stuff. But in today's session, we're going to be focusing on Zoom reports and dashboards. So that's kind of what we're leveraging here. And I have another lab example right here. So here's an example of a verified Zoom phone dashboard. Now, once again, we can certainly have multiple platform widgets on the same dashboard. It is or platform independent, excuse me. But once again, within the Zoom phone analytics reporting and dashboarding from Verify, we're going to offer the same widget styles that we currently do for Call Manager and Cube iOS. A little bit of a different data animal that we get from Zoom, but very similar with how Verify is going to handle and interpret this content and how you can dashboard and build analytic reports off of it. Okay, so we're going to comb through a lot of this stuff, and then we'll touch base on the reports towards the end of this call. But I don't want to steal too much thunder for next week's presentation either. So here's a good example that I like to build out in environments that I interface with. So definitely one thing I like to build is definitely high level metrics just to see kind of the 10,000 look view how the environment is performing. How are the data elements that we're seeing for the phone traffic being surmised. So very easily as we can build out call volume by time period, kind of bar chart widgets, kind of giving the period over period. So very easily, just once again, like our logic has been for quite some time. These widgets can certainly include a bevy of options on the summary bars we can see up top here with summarization and I guess percentage rates as well. But this can be certainly sliced in many different forms as well. So and also keying off of relative time frames as always within Verify. So this one's keying off of the previous month broken down by date. So all 28 days and bars, if you will, of the month of February. But certainly if we needed to, we can always, shrink this down. We could look at the current day and break it down by a quarter hour a day if we needed to. Or we can actually go the opposite way. We can include multiple months at the same time frame. So maybe current and previous 2 months, and then break it down by month over month or week over week. So we certainly have that level of access in these period-based bar chart widgets. A lot of other things I like to do as well is build out and see exactly top departments. So the thing with Zoom, there is organizational structure in the Zoom API that we do read with Verify and can marry, if you will, on the back end with the call data that we read and process out of the Zoom API, so that we can go ahead and call upon department names and references. So, for instance, in this lab example here, once again keying off of previous month content, I can very easily build out a leaderboard widget or a grouping style widget here, so that we can see which are the top departments, either single direction or bi-directionally as far as call base is concerned. So we can see, what are their inbound counts, what are their outbound counts. Do I have any labels to play with here at this moment? Let me just see if I have one here, which I do. Okay. A lot of things we can certainly build for this as well once these all reload, since I'm just loading a table on here. But we're going to be jumping back and forth. Let me just slide next door. We're going to be jumping back and forth between the analytics module and the dashboard, because I definitely feel that this exercise definitely helps educate people on their own phone systems content, what the data looks like, what department references that they should be building around, or end users or sites or call queues as well, which is another popular one, which we're going to get into as well. So definitely leaderboard style, just based off of departments bi-directionally, pretty short and sweet. We've definitely done that for quite some time. But also the Zoom data set also provides directions of calls in its data set. So we can very easily, just high level, very easily showcase what the amount and summarization of the direction of traffic over the Zoom API has been. Now this example here is more inbound than outbound, but also more internal, I suppose, than outbound as well. But very easily able to kind of leverage the summarization columns that we need for this content for a manager, for a supervisor. How many calls are, what's the answer rate? What's the abandon rate looking like? What is the voicemail rate looking like? So certainly we have access to all of those mech, those metrics, excuse me. Capacity utilization as well. This is going to be a line chart that we've always had here. So capacity utilization, summarization at the very top in the summary bar here. But for that previous month's time frame, very easily able to go ahead and break down what is the concurrency peaks. So that's what the line graph here is showcasing. What is the concurrent usage bi-directionally over this Zoom API that I'm tapped into. Now, not a lot of overwhelming content for this month time frame, but certainly easily to interpret what the high water mark for the month of February was. Looks like on February 8th, during the 8 a.m. hour, there were 7 concurrent calls that were happening at the same time. So very easily able to go ahead and build that stuff out. And certainly we can review some of these widgets a little more in depth. However, I think it may be beneficial to just segue right next door to the history section within analytics and showcase how exactly we're building these, how we're identifying these. So let's jump into the history section, same lab here. So this looks, let me zoom in for your eyes briefly. So this looks very, very similar, if not identical, to how we have the call manager laid out within Verify, but this is the Zoom platform here. So we're going to have in the history section here pretty much kind of the sandbox, as I refer to it as. So the ability to be able to single search or multi-direction search whatever we need to for the content or the call content off of a Zoom API, whether we're leveraging by username or by a site or by location or department. Very easy to go ahead and add these filters into a quick search, kind of history search lookup. And for this content, like caller, department, user, location, site, we're going to have pick lists that we're reading from the Zoom API off of their metadata sync. Now that's not call records, that's additional kind of attributes that we can, once again, key off of the Zoom API and marry with the data on the back end and push to the forefront. So as an example here, so I'm looking at caller department. So I do have some things built to, I do have some things easily built around a couple different departments. This example here is using enrollment services because I know that it's one of my top departments. But in this other slice that I'm in right now. There's other ones as well. So there's account services. There's a whole slew of organizational entities that we can read out of the Zoom API, and then very easily go ahead and package a search filter, if you will. Now, all of our drop downs within Verify certainly have dynamic keyword searches that will shrink the lists for you, because we definitely know the lists can be long, a little lengthy. So maybe if I want to look at bidirectional content per department, so I want color or call department, and maybe I do want to kick on, well, I'll just pick out account services as an example. If I want to look at all the account services data for the current day, which is the default, very easily able to go ahead and do so. We'll view the results here. Let me zoom in again for your eyes. So in the history section here for the current day, tapped into this Zoom API labeled as Zamboni Industries, I can see there's 186 calls that Verify has processed for the Zoom API so far for the day. Now we're going to be leveraging that from midnight through the current time frame. I have a few pages of data to review, but what we certainly can see here is a lot of columns. So within Verify, we definitely have quite a few columns for you to leverage. Out of the box, it will not list out all 20 plus of these as I have my lab here, but certainly the listing is on the left, very easily able to just double click from left to send things from left to right or right to left. So we can easily add an originating, terminating column so that we can kind of aid the history kind of call review within this section here. So I have just some kind of normal stuff here on the left. So date time originations kind of speaks for itself. Ring time, the amount of time it took for a call to ring into someone before it was answered and handled. Positive talk time or lack thereof, and some hold time if applicable. Definitely all the caller information I have thrown here on the left so we can review it real briefly. So once again, we're able to easily identify usernames. We're able to read their device types. We're able to see their, of course, the phone digits and all of that, but also read, the site information, the department information. Once again, look at the direction of call, and then from there, if we needed to, certainly we can add additional filters on top of this. Example, maybe I don't want to look at any zero duration calls. Let's go ahead and strip all those out. So for those 186 calls, now down to 133. So the remainder here is certainly calls that have positive call duration. That's pretty much what I just filtered out, was the zero duration entities of that. But also, I'm sure these play buttons are probably staring at everybody on the screen right now. Yes, Verified can leverage the voice recordings off of the Zoom API. We do not store these, but certainly we can read the API and we can play this recording right here if we wanted to, but I will save that for another time. So we don't necessarily report on the recordings, but certainly we have the availability to go ahead and play them right from this history section, which is very, very powerful for for training issues, for manager concerns, and all that good fun stuff that a supervisor may be concerned about. Okay. So once again, as an example here, just reviewing this data, we were very easily able to see all this content. If there's a specific call that we're looking for, or specific styles of call, maybe if we're looking for outbound calls to the the 832 area code for as an example, certainly very able to go ahead and let's use that as an example. Let's see how many of these calls are going to Houston, Texas. And I'll just pick on call number. That is in the terminating field here. Let's go ahead and plus that in. I did steal that number from the history results, so which is one nice thing as well with the history results. Being able to kind of jump back and forth to a dashboard and go ahead and plug values into the filters within a dashboard widget can very easily just go ahead and copy to your clipboard from the results page, maybe jump over to another tab, or just obviously navigate over to dashboards if you wanted to go ahead and take those values and insert them, but certainly definitely have those options. All right, let's remove that one. I don't know why that one didn't work that well. Probably some excluding zeros. All right, so a lot of content that we can very easily see here. So for instance, if we want to build something around risk management or that account services department, once again, very easily able to go ahead and do so. And then from there, what we can do is, once again, let me zoom out so I don't ruin the page. Then we have the ability to go ahead and build out stuff like this. So I was keying off of account services on that one example, but let's just assume that the department I was keying on was enrollment services. So as an example here, very easily for us to go ahead and identify the very easily able to identify the content that's going ahead and being delivered here off of this. So here's a quick user listing for this department that I'm keying off of. So inbound traffic for the previous 30 days that have been presented to the enrollment people. So we can certainly see here kind of leaderboard-esque once again. So for the previous 30 days, peak users, summarization for the whole group as a whole. And then if we needed to, we could certainly build more intricate things around that as well to go ahead and showcase, the period over period performance for calls that are being presented to this organizational unit, let's say. So broken down by week, once again, we can go out to month over month or even all the way down to cumulatively quarter hour of day. But then if we need to go ahead and maybe actually identify maybe what devices are actually handling all this traffic that's coming to the enrollment services department, fairly easily able to go ahead and identify that potentially in a distribution style of widget that I have here, or kind of a donut chart. But definitely a lot of accessibility and use cases there, whether or not we're keying off of top sites. Sites is another organizational identifying field from the Zoom API as well that we are going to read within a Variphy sync to a Zoom API. So a lot of content that we can very easily produce there. Let's see, what else do I have here? Here's another example. Oh, here's where the accounting services is, a different lab. Let's just do this. Take off that header. So as an example, so we were looking at that accounting services department earlier. If I want to employ custom label sets, because we do use kind of the out of the box nomenclature for our stuff, but we can certainly relabel column headers and fields that we need to, not the values, but certainly the fields, the field references. So inbound and outbound traffic for these top 5 departments, very easily attainable. Once again, directions of calls over here. I've thrown in some KBI information here, but okay, so more period over period stuff for, once again, so as I was making mention, so if we want to look at kind of the trending analysis for a department, for a site, for a user group, for a set of extension numbers within the Zoom API, very easy to go ahead and leverage that. And if we need to see it, on a month by month case basis, fairly easily able to do so. Once again, as I made mention, easily able to go ahead and chop that down to a user listing. Who are my peak performers? Who's handling the most traffic? And able to represent that in a myriad of different fashions as well. So whether it's the distribution donut chart or a kind of a leaderboard widget, or even if we want to look at something more high level. So if we're looking for all general volume, very easily able to go ahead and include that. All right. Permalink access is definitely a viable option, and I actually have a board right here that actually kind of has multiple functions and multiple platforms on it as well. So here's a permalink board that I have that kind of has Call Manager, that has Contact Center Express, has Cube iOS, and the newly supported Zoom Phone API content. So a lot of this stuff looks very familiar, looks very similar to one another. Different data animals, but definitely a lot of things that Variphy can do to slice and dice this data. Now, I don't want to bore everyone with just kind of digging through dashboard widgets the whole time, but definitely do know within the Variphy analytics structure as I've always had. So you definitely have the access to go ahead and play around with the history searches. So searching whatever you're looking for. Definitely plenty of filterable options from single direction to multi-direction with suppressions as well, or specific only inclusions, let's say. So there's definitely a lot of access for that. And as well as always, we have the capability to go ahead and export these results from this history section. So clicking on that export history results button will go ahead and give us pretty much the whole gauntlet of our report parameters. So we do use, once again, a flex model in our standard reports for Variphy, whether it's Call Manager, Cube iOS, and or Zoom right here that we're looking at. So we have a lot of options at our disposal, similar to the dashboard widgets as well, but a lot of things that we can include or maybe turn off. Now, I'm not going to run through this right now. We'll save a little bit of this for next week, but definitely, as we can see here, I can make probably 100 phone call report. I could have that be a 1-2 page report, or I could have it be a 300-page report if I needed to. There are a lot of bells and whistles and levers and knobs that can be turned on within Variphy. So if we need to showcase data tables for period over period, for single or multi time units, for multiple call statistic or scenario data points, very easily able to go ahead and do so, whether that's a data table, a volume table, or a graphical a graphical chart, or are we also showcasing concurrency as well in this? So definitely a lot of options. We can certainly include the granular call details of all the data traffic that we're including within the reports. It depends if whether or not it needs to be shown. Can certainly inflate reports, and if it's too cumbersome to have attached on a report, barely easily able to go ahead and just strike that out and remove it. And as always, the top 4 file output format options that we have will be HTML and PDF that will deliver the graphical charts. CSV and Excel will not, but definitely we know what those are used for. Post report run, let's say. Handful of deliverable options on that reporting stuff as well will be to download it, to email it, to send it to chat bots, as well as to an SFTP, FTP server on the network, or just write it locally within Variphy to be harvested at later time. But definitely from this history section and on these exports, very easily able to go ahead and save for future use. And then once we click that run button to run whatever report query that we needed to, it will save a copy of that report in the report bucket. So we're going to get more into this report bucket next week, but certainly, As always, this is certainly where in Verify where we store the we wouldn't call them canned reports, but let's say the report templates, ones that are built from the ground up, or even ones that are leveraged from Verify's template package that is on our website that can be downloaded and bulk imported into Verify. So we're going to comb through these next week, but definitely the ability to go ahead and import and create brand new Zoom reports within Verify is very easy. It's the exact same layout that has been for Call Manager for quite some time, so it should be very familiar for all of those who have Verify communicating with a Call Manager phone system. So do know that that look and feel is going to be pretty much identical. So same rules apply. Go ahead and to play a report. Go ahead and run a report for whatever time frame that we deem necessary, whatever output format we deem necessary, and deliverable option and time frame as well. So whether or not we're keying, from year to date, or something specific on a relative time frame, or something very specific on a specific time frame, and maybe slicing out certain hours of the day, for instance, only to include business hours, Monday through Friday as an example. Okay, so a lot of options there. And then as always, the reports in the report section can always be ran kind of ad hoc on the fly, but also the automation right next door, which has always been in Verify, is certainly here for the Zoom phone report support as well. So I don't have any schedules at the moment, but as always, we can deliver reports in frequency, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, biannual, or on an annual basis. So plenty of options for deliverables there for those frequency timeframes. So it's just a matter of going ahead and building it out, which is very easily able to do. And then they can be replicated as well. Very easy to manage these as well from a manager or supervisor standpoint, because we'll know now with the schedule of that report run. What time window is it encompassing? What delivery model is it using? What was it last modified and by whom? And also, of course, most importantly, is it enabled or is it not? So certainly, is it turned on to be automated and to be delivered, or is it just waiting in the weeds for a little more polish, let's say? So it's definitely that option as well. And last but not least, I'll just touch base real briefly on the configure section, and mainly just to point out the custom label sets that we're supporting for Zoom as well. So since we've had these for Call Manager, for Contact Center, and Cube iOS, we certainly have them for Zoom. I don't have too many built in here at the moment, but let me just zoom in real briefly here. So a few that I do have, and there are some examples that are kind of offered as well. They're not turned on by default, but underneath the detail columns, you can see here, in which we have certainly quite a few. So we can certainly relabel these in the application as you need them to be, whether it's just changing the terminology or just abbreviating something to slim up the column width, for instance. There's definitely options there. We offer a few here. Ones that I'm using in this lab example are based off of the grouping type. So instead of kind of having call device and kind of party names or departments, I'm kind of just abbreviating this and giving it those kind of just user department kind of acronyms, or something once again that can be freeform, but they cannot be identical. So one label labels cannot be replicated within the set. So in other words, I can't call the same call party name, and if I had a combination, I couldn't call this one down here agent as well. It will bark at me, as you can see here. So no need to worry about and save that. And then other ones as well. So we definitely kind of use the originating and terminating kind of nomenclature out of the box. But once again, certainly these custom label sets are very easily able to go ahead and mimic what we want it to say. So instead of saying, originating, give me outbound average call duration, give me outbound call count. For terminating, instead of terminating, give me inbound average duration, inbound call count. So definitely a lot of options with the labels. As always, if you've heard me in here before, you definitely have heard me harp on them. But there's definitely tons of ability to go ahead and pretty much relabel everything, so it's much more user friendly for maybe some non-technical people. But out of the box, these would need to be provisioned, and certainly Verify would definitely assist with that. Now, I don't mean to get too long in the tooth, but Victor, might we have any questions on any of the content that I have shared so far with us today?
All right. I am not seeing any questions, so excellent job, Matt. If anybody does have any questions, again, feel free to hit us up in the QA section on the panel on the left-hand side. We'll be happy to get those answered. If we don't get to it today, we'll be more than happy to reach out to you and answer it on the side. All right. So with all that said, Matt, let me go ahead and steal the ball back from you here. And awesome job as always, Matt. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. Again, if you have any questions, feel free, hit us up in the QA panel on the left-hand side. We'd be more than happy to get those answered for you. And without further ado, the winner of this week's webinar is Jan Perplechkov. Jan, I hope I didn't do a bad job there. Congratulations, Jan. We'll have your account manager go ahead and reach out to you and get you that $50 Amazon gift card. And again, thank you guys for attending and registering for this week's workshop. Please make sure you join us next week as Matt is going to go ahead and take us through how to download and use those Zoom phone reporting templates that he was talking about. So join us next week. Make sure you register at verify.com. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Take care.